Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with a sort of emergency hot take. Um, the craziest thing has happened, and that is this. This is from Andy Knows Twitter feed, which if you don't follow and you follow Antifa stuff, you should. Portland Antifa clashes with BLM. Portland Antifa clashes with BLM. This is a major break between the two groups. Antifa have called for the creation of an autonomous zone in the park where there was a police involved shooting death of a reportedly armed man. Antifa also announced that BLM is banned from participating. Here's why. Now, this is according to Antifa tweets, so who knows. But it says comrades are calling for a vigil and temporary occupation of Lentz Park, which I assume is in Portland. Meet at 9 p.m. tonight. Bring tents, candles, food, drinks, and other supplies. To be clear, Black Unity and BLM Squad are not welcome at the occupation because all they do, this is their words, not me, not mine. All they do is bring megaphones to exploit Portland's white guilt and swoop S. A black comrade called for this S, and now they got no tolerance for swooper liberal Fs. Now, I'm not sure, some of those words, I'm not sure what they referred to, but this is major. This is a major thing. If Antifa and BLM actually break apart, now it might only be in Portland, it might only be this incident, and then tomorrow they're just like all back to their usual idiocy. But I also saw at one of the Minnesota rallies, it was either Dante Wright or the Chauvin thing, which is really kind of one and the same now since they're kind of close together. At one of those protests or riots or whatever you want to call it, a white kid who was probably Antifa, I can't say for sure, and was on video. He had thrown a bottle of water, as these idiots always do, over the heads of some of the protesters, and it went, I don't know, it hit the cops or whatever it hit. The black protesters, who I assume were BLM, just chewed him out, just absolutely dressed him down, emasculated him, and he just was like very sorry, and they told him to leave, and then they cursed him out as he was leaving. So there could be a split here, which would be a major development. I mean, BLM and Antifa. First off, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised it's taken this long for BLM to turn against Antifa or vice versa, because Antifa has used ridiculously racist language in their riots and protests. Now, all that racist language tends to be directed at cops, journalists, and like civilians who don't immediately bow down and worship them. But you got to think, if you were a black person in BLM and you heard the supposed allies standing next to you scream this stuff, and they scream it. It's not like quiet. It's not like some kind of subtle thing. It's loud. It's loud enough to go, whoa, man, are you crazy? Are you nuts? These idiots are supposedly fighting fascism or whatever, and they're screaming the N-word at cops. And you're just like, what the hell is happening? It's got to piss off some of these BLM members, or at least, the black protesters, whoever they are. I mean, you don't get a pass. It's not like you get a pass because you're in the magic resistance to say that stuff. So this is probably a long time in coming, and it sounds pretty angry. And the worst part about it, I think, is this is probably going to cause a rift, and they're going to start fighting each other at some point. At some point. Because it's this horseshoe effect, right? Whether you're on the right, you get so extreme, and you're on the left, you get so extreme. These two groups end up meeting, not quite, but almost meeting, because they horseshoe kind of in towards each other. So these extreme leftists are racist. They're very racist because their ideology is driven by dividing everybody by race and creed and whatever. And they have to, in order to continue to think this nonsense, they have to deny a lot of reality, and the racism helps them in that. But just like everything else they do, when they hit reality, it comes crumbling down. So they're hitting the reality of, yeah, you are racist. Yeah, you are asking for segregation. Yeah, you're out of your effing mind. And Andy just, as always, covers a ton of stuff here. I mean, as always, everything's going to berserk in Portland. You've got protests everywhere. This is Oakland, California. BLM and Antifa shut down the roads in their direct action in Oakland, California. F justice, we want revenge. Antifa are clear and consistent in their messaging. At their event in Brooklyn, they vandalized property for deceased teen gang member Adam Toledo and held banners saying what they demand. I assume this is someone from Antifa or BLM. A fierce march took over the streets of Brooklyn earlier tonight for Adam Toledo, marching from the Barclays Center to Crown Heights. Some radical artwork went up despite a very large NYPD presence. Well, maybe he's not. I don't know. He might just be a reporter. Especially Strategic Response Group, threatening and repressing the march. F justice, we want revenge. So, signs of the BLM Antifa breaking up are also playing out in Minnesota. Mood shifting here. Black freedom fighters trying to prevent white agitators from climbing on barricades and shaking the fences. Agitators are accusing black community members and freedom fighters of being paid by the city to protect barricades and police property. See how, like, they're mad, but they still keep calling them freedom fighters? It's funny. Let's see. Andy also had, I don't know if I can find it, but yeah, here it is. Chicago police have released the body cam footage of the police shooting death of an armed team, Adam Toledo. Oh, I guess, no, it said it was in Brooklyn, but I guess the march was in Brooklyn, but the shooting was in Chicago, like I thought. So you can see from these pictures, this is presumably Toledo, and he's holding a gun. He's holding a gun behind his back. There it is on the ground. So he was armed. A lot of the initial reports said he was unarmed. So it's and of course, as always, Andy is being threatened all over internet. No one is stopping these threats. Jack Dorsey doesn't seem to care that a gay Asian man who is also a journalist is being threatened. Look, he's got a blue check mark and everything, Jack. Why don't you suspend these Twitter accounts? So it's not good. It's not good. I'm just glad. Well, Andy's out of the country, so hopefully he's safe. Hopefully his family's safe. But if you want to find out real news, especially regarding Antifa or these, BLM and these related groups, you really should check out his Twitter feed, because it is just a plethora of good information. So I look forward to these two groups destroying each other, quite frankly. Right-wing groups, if you're listening, a few of you apparently do, stay out of it. Stay out of it. It doesn't matter what group you're in. I mean, I'm not affiliated with any of you, but the strategy is simple. Let these guys tear themselves to pieces. There's no reason to start marching through them. The moment you do, you know what's going to happen. Every journalist in America will turn and say, there's a real problem. So stay out of it, idiots. Yeah, I'm calling you idiots too. You'd be idiots to get involved in this. So this street fighting hopefully will thin out the ranks of Antifa. But the downside of that is, as I've said, as the ranks thin, you get down to the core of evil, the true hardcore members who are going to be criminalized to the nth degree. These are the guys who will end up killing people. They'll end up in prison. They'll be running the communist prison gangs, or whatever they turn into. And, they're going to get more violent. They're going to get more violent. That's the real danger here. As the numbers shrink, as the college kids finally go, oh, I'm getting out of this, the people who have been arrested 10 times, they've been through the system, they were getting let go before, and now they go to prison for 8 years or whatever, they are going to become very hardened criminals. And when they get out, that's when we're going to have to deal with them again, because their impulse will not be to go back to their lives. Their lives are destroyed. They'll burn every bridge they have in their ideology and their cause, just like the right-wing racists did. And I'm not comparing the right-wing groups to the racists. I'm talking about the racists that were like back in the 80s and 90s. These guys, they became hardcore. They would come out of the joint, and they wouldn't get jobs, most of them. Some of them would go back to a life of crime. And, they had already, their racist groups were gone. They had nothing to do other than to commit crime. They knew criminals. They became hardened criminals. This is, unfortunately, what we're looking forward to. Not really, but this is what's going to happen. So for those of you still in these groups, understand, unless you intend to become a hardened criminal and spend the rest of your life doing unspeakable things to survive, get out. Get out now. Now, some of these guys, they do become hardened criminals for a while, and then they try to turn their life around. It's very, very hard. Very hard. The longer you're in, the harder it is to turn it around. Once you're in jail and get that record, it becomes very difficult. No one trusts you. No one wants to give you a job. You have to put in a form that you're a felon or whatever you are. But there are people who help. But a lot of times, these same criminals, they get out for a while, and then they get tempted by their old buddies, and they go back to crime. Get out now. Hopefully you can skate free with no criminal record. Hopefully they won't come after you. But burn that hoodie. Destroy every bit of evidence connecting you to Antifa. Get out now. And BLM. They might eventually come after BLM too. It's not a good life. This is your warning. We'll see you tomorrow.